the 8th day of Christmas, namely 90s gave to me. 8 gifts a burning, 7 friends a praying, 6 keys a playing, 5 fourth wall breaks, 4 geeks are rapping, 3 calls to butter, 2 former husbands, and Santa holding a store hostage. I screwed up in the middle. Oh well.
Welcome to Namely 90s. Wow. The podcast that takes you back to the time before smartphones, Google, and Y2K. Join your hosts as they relive the pop culture that shaped a generation and the parts that many people wish they could forget. Listen in to the conversation about how the decade defined those who spent their childhood there and how it shaped them as adults. So, turn down the grunge and dial up the internet. Let's get started. It's time for Namely 90s.
That's right, you're listening to Namely 90s. My name's Andrew, and over there's Brandon.
That's me.
You can find us online at namely90s.com or on Twitter and Instagram at namely90s with the 90s. You can also find the show on YouTube at youtube.com/@namely90s. And you can also support our show by heading over to patreon.com/namely90s, also with the 90s, and get signed up for one of our support levels.
Yeah, that wasn't me just reaching over to turn my camera on.
No, he's just making hand gestures. Welcome to episode 8 of our third annual 12 Days of Christmas specials. We're almost there.
Yes, we're almost there. It's the 28th of December, and merry, happy everyone.
Yes,
I want to say it's a Wednesday.
Sure. Who knows what day it is anymore?
I know.
You're still in that post-Christmas candy coma, probably, or whatever, food coma.
Food candy coma. You know what it is. But today, for day 8, we are happy to have Taylor of Geek Speak joining us. Hi, Taylor. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Oh, not bad. Just
so good.
Brain fog all the time now.
Understandable.
But yeah, Geek Speak, if I can steal from one of your blurbs, is a podcast for geeks by geeks, where you learn about the geeky world from geeks themselves. So if you do kind of episodes on subjects within geekdom, and you have on guests to talk about like their passions, and clearly I'm stealing all of your things that you can say when I ask you. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Geek Speak?
So Geek Speak recently new. We launched it about 2-3 months ago at this point. And yeah, what it is your average kind of day podcast for the geek. We've been finding people through friends, through organizations, and through the cosplay community and so on. People who are passionate about certain topics within the geek world, like cosplay, lightsabers. Last week it was werewolves or anything. And then kind of letting them tell us why they enjoy it, teach us about the topic, give us all the history on it, and so on. So every episode is very different and individualized for whatever the topic is. Last week it was werewolves. The week before that we were talking to a grandfather, as he called himself, about comic books way back in the day and how cons first started. The week before that it was who is the best Joker, or can you survive a horror movie, all based on the pure passion of the nerd that week that we're having. Just your everyday average conversation with learning about more and more things in the movie and con world.
I mean, who's the best Joker was a very interesting episode. I'd just like to throw in my 2 cents here and say Mark Hamill.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I think your first, you also have a co-host who couldn't make it today.
Yeah. Forgot to mention him.
Weird how that happens when co-hosts aren't around. I do that all the time when I'm guesting on podcasts without Andrew.
I have a very serious question. Where are we at with the Big Bang Theory as far as are we fans? Are we not fans? Is that geekdom, nerddom? Are those the same? Are they different?
That's geekdom. I am big fans of that, and I always have been. But recently, I realized something from Big Bang Theory that I've never actually been able to like bring this up and tell someone about it, that does annoy me. So as a female, until the very later seasons, all the nerds on that show that were females were only nerds because of their brains. Reading a comic book for a female was like taboo or just boring or gross or wrong until we got the one girl to work at the comic book shop in the later season. Now, I'm not saying I don't like it. I've loved it and I always will, but I've always wanted to get that little annoyance out of me.
I was just curious. There's a running gag where I absolutely hate that show, but I was just curious from someone who's in that world, like what your your opinion was.
I like it, but I think it's doing a bad representation of
that is fair.
In the geek world.
Yes, I agree. I in general, I always found the Big Bang Theory to be kicking down on geeks instead of lifting up. But that's not to say I haven't hate watched the entire series.
No,
I love the term
right.
hate watch.
No, that's the best way to explain it.
I always like to remind myself that it was created by the same people who created 2.5 Men, and then that further reinforces my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's a very dumb show.
For me, it was because it was in the time slot at the time when it kind of first came out. It was that or Community, and Community is written by geeks for geeks, whereas it felt like Big Bang Theory was
written for people with money who want more money.
Yes.
Yes.
But we're not here to yuck people's yums. We're happy to have. Well, I'm happy to have a fellow geek on. I don't know if Andrew considers himself a geek.
I don't know that I fall into. I mean, I like computers. My profession is science based, so I feel like I mean, moderately. I'm not deep into it, but
I think you have different areas of geekdom, and that's the great thing about Geek Speak is that they cover
so many areas you could be one.
And you started your first episode talking about, are there evil Hufflepuffs? And as someone that was shocked to find out he was a Hufflepuff when he originally got sorted, I have to wonder, am I evil and also a Hufflepuff? But it's a good way to kind of like. I really like the guest format idea because you probably have a wide like berth of interest within geekdom, but I couldn't tell you like some deep dive stuff like the origin of cons or like I was recently on or I guess it's airing after this, but I was recently a guest on a YouTube show talking about like 90s action cartoons, and I was like, I mean I remember some stuff, but I'm not like a super like deep into it. And then they brought me back for Power Rangers, where I was like, I have a helmet right off screen over here, and here are all my adult Power Rangers toys that I have hidden away that Andrew doesn't know about, and I hope he doesn't hear this audio right now. But yeah, it's a great celebration of geekdom and nerddom, and it's the real question I should be asking is, where can they find it, and when what's your release schedule like?
So we can be found on Spotify, all types of podcast network places to listen. That's not exactly English, but you get what I'm saying. This is proper English. But anywhere you can listen to podcasts, we are at Geek Speak on those. On our main social media is Instagram, where we post like who's going to be the guest that week, because there's a new guest every single week, and then trailers or what to look forward to, so on and so forth. The obvious at Geek Speak JT. That also goes to our Facebook, our TikTok, and our Twitter, which aren't used as much, but they're there. And we release episodes every Friday morning, if we can keep up with the schedule. I missed last week, so that just shows. But it's every Friday morning if the schedule goes the way it should.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's always during the holidays, it's always hard to get everything in. Such as a young podcast of a couple months, that's awesome. We look forward to seeing you grow as you keep hitting those episodes, making those episodes. I also don't English well.
That's where our specialty is speaking basically English on our podcast. It always impresses me when people can speak multiple languages because I can't even speak one. You know what I mean? It's like some days.
Jimmy Mashte.
Yes, I feel that.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca? So Taylor from Geek Speak. Since you're a new guest this year for the 12 Days of Christmas specials, we usually ask, do you have any like 90s holiday memories? And if so, would you like to share one, or should we just move on to what we brought you on for?
I can the one thing that comes to my head when you say 90s Christmas is, since I am such a geek and a nerd, it always goes back to the movies, is the Santa Claus movie, which I forced myself to watch every single year. That was made in 1994, I think. So I most likely saw it for the first time when I was really little in the 90s. And that's just like the tradition now that the Disney Plus shows come out. That's been very ingrained into my head as
it's a classic.
My 90s memory.
Now, I have to ask, what do you feel about, or how do you feel about the Santa Claus 2 and the Santa Claus 3, the Escape Clause?
I love Santa Claus 2. Santa Claus 3 started getting a little cheesy in a way where I think it may have gone a little too far.
And so have you seen the Disney Plus series?
Yeah, it just finished. It was either Monday or Tuesday. It just finished and we watched it last night.
I haven't seen it.
I liked it pretty well.
So you'd recommend it?
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's a little bit of a different feel. Everything's updated as usual because it's been years, but it's still pretty good. We just watched the original for one of our I think it was November special. Yeah. It'll be nice to see some updated graphics on that. But it is a great. I think after watching it, I'm adding it to my annual Christmas movie list with Die Hard and Christmas Vacation. Yeah. So, speaking of things from the 90s that never die and get rebooted.
No kidding.
We brought you on to talk about Full House, this Arrest Ye Merry Gentlemen, which is season 8, episode 11, the final season of Full House. But let's brief our listeners on those that somehow don't know what Full House is. Full House is an American television sitcom created by Jeff Franklin for ABC. It was one of the cornerstones of TGIF, I believe. That should have been on here.
I believe so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or was it? It was Family Matters. Maybe it wasn't.
Full House I don't think it started it, but it was in there.
Either way, the show is about a widowed father, Danny Tanner, who enlists his brother-in-law, Jesse Kostopoulos, and his childhood best friend, Joey Gladstone, to help raise his 3 daughters, DJ, Stephanie, and Michelle, in his San Francisco home. It aired from 87 to 95 with a total of 192 episodes, and it was consistently in the Nielsen Top 30 from season 2 onward. And it also received a sequel series, Fuller House, on Netflix that Brandon has seen every episode of. Let's do guests first, I guess. Taylor, how do you feel about Full House? What's your relationship with that?
I love Full House. I grew up watching it. I was watching repeats as they would come on. At that point, it was Nick at Night and stuff. So I was never watching it in the correct order or totally knowing the whole storyline, but I was watching it all the time as it would appear on my TV, flipping through the channels. So I just kind of grew up with it. And then during the pandemic, somehow flipping through TV shows, that ended up being one of the TV shows I just landed on, and somehow through over that year, watched the entire thing in order.
So you're now educated on the entire canon of Full House then?
Yes, within the correct order, the storylines as they proceeded, and not just random chaos anymore.
That's impressive. What about you, Andrew?
We definitely watched it. Obviously, Bob Saget, he was a comedian, actually a pretty raunchy comedian.
Yes.
It's kind of funny that he's like plays this family man. And then, of course, the heartthrob John Stamos, which I feel like brought some people to the show. I mean, it's like, it's when you go back and watch it, like it's very nostalgic. It's kind of a typical sitcom. There's always like a conflict, and then with the kids, there's a heartfelt moment, but it's good.
There's always like a B story dedicated to the youngest child that can hardly put words together.
I did not know. For some reason, I forgot that Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen played the same character. I thought they were both in it. Because then I got confused when they were the twin boys. I got really confused. I was
How did they turn into twin boys?
This was like deep season 8,
Yes.
mid season 8. I'd also like to, I'd like to point out for this episode, the title was Arrest Ye Merry Gentlemen, except no one was arrested and only one of them was a man.
That's a good point.
But I get their point.
As someone who sacrifices clarity for puns,
I do that.
Yes. I was going to say pot calling the kettle black. But Full House. You may be confused because we watched Two of a Kind, which was for a different season or a different special last year. Where they played sisters.
Okay, that could be where I got mixed up because it all came rushing back. And
on all the VHS Mary-Kate and Ashley home videos that you have, they play sisters. Sure,
absolutely.
Yeah. I remember Full House as well. I definitely saw it on reruns. I know I saw the later seasons as they came out because I was probably around the same age as Michelle was pretending to be. Because it ran to 95, so I would have been like 5 when I was watching that final season. I definitely saw a lot on reruns. I remember enjoying Danny, Jesse, and Joey's stuff, and then when Aunt Becky came in and made sure her twins got into college.
They played on the polo team. It's fine.
Yeah. I liked the Jesse and Becky stories, and since I was around the same age, I probably liked the Michelle storylines in the later seasons because she's a rambunctious first grader or whatever, and I do remember like there was an episode where DJ was offered to smoke cigarettes, and she's like, "No way, man."
I'm not giving into peer pressure. Yeah, a lot of times there was like a message, like a wholesome family message about drugs, or
it might have been Stephanie that was smoking.
They were all they all lightly felt like very special episodes.
Yes. Dave Coulier once said that the show was a G-rated dysfunctional family. So it was like, it's like Married with Children, except for family shows. And as I said at the top of this, I've watched every episode of Fuller House because I was bored once and then got sucked in, and
it's over.
It is. Yeah.
Once you get into that,
it's all you can do. I'm excited for Fullest House in another 10 to 20 years. We have to figure, because the weird thing about Fuller House was that DJ's first husband, who died in a fire, because he was a firefighter or something. Andrew shot me a look.
It's funny because I was about to say a house so full it's a fire hazard, and then you said the fire thing.
Yeah,
that's weird.
DJ's first husband's last name was Fuller, so that's how they got away with Fuller House. So yeah, clearly one of the children have to marry someone whose last name is Fullest, or change their name to Fullest for that sequel to work. Yeah, should we get into Arrest You Merry Gentlemen?
Let's get into this thing.
All right. So the episode opens with the girls and Kimmy in. Do all three girls sleep in the same room? That just reminded me. I think it's
unclear.
It's Stephanie and
Stephanie and DJ
Michelle.
live in the same room. Yes,
Okay.
yes. DJ got her own room when she became a teenager.
Yeah. So Stephanie and Michelle's room. They're wrapping Christmas presents. And Michelle's so proud because it's the first year that she purchased a gift with her own money at the store instead of making it. And of course, she bought a gift for Danny, her father, of a terrible joke tie.
With like a cup holder that
so
has Christmas stuff, and then it goes around your neck, right? So that you can like hold your drink in your tie.
While you eat your snacks. And then the girls are like, but I loved your homemade stuff, like the Frosted Flakes, or no, what did she say? Michelle says, Frosted Flakes make great jewelry. And then I think it was either DJ or Stephanie says, I loved your Rice Krispies retainer container. That
I don't know what. I mean, I guess the cereal jokes just because she's a kid, but I was like, we're going hard on the cereal jokes.
Yeah. I mean, did you not make presents out of cereal as a child?
I did not.
I don't think I did.
Macaroni?
Yeah, I remember macaroni art. Was that a spin on macaroni art? But yeah, the girl, so her sister's trying to be nice, and Kimmy's just like, God damn, that's ugly. More or less. And then
that's what she said.
Yes, that is exactly what Kimmy says. And then, wow, I just realized I should have worn the Christmas sweater. Sorry, just to back it up out of the episode. On Fuller House, Kimmy Gibbler wears the gaudiest Christmas sweater that I've ever seen. It's Santa Claus riding a unicorn in space.
Yes.
With a laser sword. I purchased that sweater 6 months before that episode came out. And so I've worn it on different episodes of our specials. And yeah, I was Kimmy Gibbler before she was in Fuller House, apparently. Anyway, it cuts to the title sequence, which the season 8 title sequence is a little rougher than the season 1, where they're all just like having fun in the park in San Francisco. Now they're down by not the Embarcadero, but underneath the Bay Bridge, and
but then they're like cued to come toward the camera. It's not even the turn and look; it's the like come to the camera intro.
But
did they pioneer that?
Do you not like that? Because it's classic sitcom.
No, I was just saying it was very stereotypical. I didn't say I didn't like it.
Well, you're the guy that's like you like the turn and look to the camera.
I prefer the turn and look. Yeah, I don't know about the come up and pose thing.
That's fair. But that song is ingrained in my head. Sorry, Carly Rae Jepsen. The OG song is better. She did the Fuller House version. But yeah, back to the episode where they've animated like.
Thank you for pointing that out.
There was
Christmas
bad CG
lights.
Christmas lights.
Yeah, I was like, clearly they just took that
Yes.
video and then just like somehow tried to add it later. It was bad.
Not good.
Yeah.
Still wasn't as bad as the fake snow from that Fresh Prince episode where they like superimposed supposedly falling snow over the still shot. Oh my gosh.
Classic. Yes. So Becky walks in, Danny's in the kitchen. Becky's like sniffing out of the air. Oh, what's Danny cooking? I smell pumpkin pie. I smell turkey. She listed off 3 different things, and Danny is like, oh, you must be smelling my air freshener, Christmas scented, or Christmas dinner scented. Yes. And that's then Joey and Jesse burst in and are fighting about having to go to the dry cleaners on Christmas Eve because everyone's trying to get their Santa suits back from the dry cleaner.
I'm sorry, it's after dark on Christmas Eve. The dry cleaner is closed. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yes.
Like all these antics that happen on Christmas Eve. I mean, at least the store was closing that they went to, but like, why are all these places open so late? You know?
Why is everyone shopping on Christmas Eve?
I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. It's so another one of the tropes we've noticed this year for the episodes that we've been doing is every episode of Christmas starts on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And then does not progress. Yes. So Becky, let's see. Becky's showing off a gag gift that she bought. Michelle walks in at this time, and Becky got the same gag gift tie, but for Joey. And then all the adults immediately just trash it.
Like, wow, that thing's hideous. What kind of idiot? I don't think they said it quite like. I mean, basically,
pretty much. Danny himself was like, "You'd have to be pretty stupid to use one of those things." And then Michelle's just like, "Oh my god." Becky even says the literal same spiel that Michelle said in the teaser for the episode. You can wear it and then you put the cup on here so you have room to eat your snacks while you're partying at Christmas. And Michelle is shocked and hurt, and we all feel for her as she exits the kitchen and with her Christmas gift that she just wrapped for her father, who then disparaged it without knowing it.
Is that when she tried to light it on fire?
Yes. So Jesse exits the kitchen, walks in on Michelle, like trying to put the tie into the fireplace with the wrapping, and also he accidentally bought parsley instead of mistletoe and got ripped off.
That wasn't parsley, but anyway. Like, it has a woodsy stem. It's not parsley.
Yeah, it was sage. No. Michelle. So yeah, Michelle tries to light the tie on fire. Jesse finds Michelle trying to set the house on fire. And then Michelle.
It drives her to arson. She's so upset.
Well, I mean, the way she was sticking it into the fireplace and it was like poking out over their fireplace guard probably would have set the house on fire.
Most likely.
Yeah, right. And it would have been a completely different episode. DJ would have met her husband earlier, and then they would have got married, and he wouldn't have died in the fire, or she would have died in a house fire.
It's getting dark.
Yep. Michelle, Jesse's like, "Oh, your dad would love anything you got him," and then she's like, "No, he would hate this because he literally just said it's the worst thing ever." And you literally just said it's the stupidest thing you've ever seen, and he's like, "It's not the stupidest thing I've ever seen." She reveals it, and it's what he literally just said in the kitchen. It's the stupidest thing we've ever seen. Yeah. So she convinces him to go to take her to the store to get a return, so she get a different gift for Danny. And on Christmas Eve, where Jesse doesn't want to be. And also, Michelle mentions her Fruit Loops sombrero that she made once.
Another cereal joke. Well, they all come in threes, right?
Yeah. Jesse made it. Why don't you make him his Fruit Loops sombrero? And she was like, I made that 2 years ago for him. Yeah. Would you wear a Fruit Loop sombrero, Taylor?
I mean, if you could pull off making it, I'm not even sure how you would construct that thing in the first place.
Yeah.
Just for the honor of it actually being constructed, I would wear it.
Like, I would buy a sombrero, put Fruit Loops in it, and then eat out of it as if it were a bowl.
So then don't they go to the store to try to like exchange this thing?
Yep.
Yes.
Essentially.
they didn't bring the receipt when they left. And then before we get to that point, the B story pops up. The dry cleaner gave Joey the wrong Santa suit. Steph and DJ are trying to help him get into the overpacked suit. I don't know why he just didn't not use the pillow because they're like trying to close the Santa suit over him, but also with a pillow underneath. Why not just be a slim Santa? Yeah. Right?
Exactly.
Santa hits the gym.
Yeah, and then the twins walk in on a truly disturbing scene of Santa being groped by two young women,
pummeled. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes, so as they were trying to like help him fit into the suit, they got stuck, and then they fell on each other, and then they were screaming for help, and the twins saw this.
The twins felt unnecessary, and also, who at Full House is so obsessed with twins? It's kind of creeping me out.
I just like to say I feel like that's a statement for the entirety of their existence on this series. The twins were unnecessary. But you know, Becky and Jesse needed kids, and someone needed to have the cute child storyline. Because
right.
And then we cut back to the A story at the joke shop. Where the joke shopkeeper is played by I want to say he played an Asian guy in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
A non-offensive Asian guy. The thing with these shows that always happens is like the person comes on and then the studio audience erupts with like cheers, and I'm like,
yeah,
and then I go to IMDb. I'm like, who is this?
Yeah, it's like 90s famous doesn't make it all the way to 2022.
Yeah, exactly.
So Andrew clearly didn't know it was Mickey Rooney. I didn't know it was Mickey Rooney. Did you know it was Mickey Rooney?
I didn't realize that was exactly who it was, but I knew, like, I know this guy from somewhere.
It was either Mickey Rooney or someone just like him. That's kind of what I was.
I knew it on the tip of my tongue. It's like, I've seen him in things. I've seen him in, but everything I've seen him in, he's been the old famous guy you're supposed to know from, like, back in the day.
Yeah,
this act went on for so long. It was miserable.
The back and forth about trying to get a return. Jesse's like
he's clearly in the wrong in every single possible way.
Didn't bring a receipt,
and the store owner can make whatever policy he wants, and also it was closed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Jesse has to trick him to let him into the store first, because he hurried over to make sure that the store was closed by the time they walked to the door. Jesse just is like, here, this is the tie. Michelle didn't bring her receipt because she's a child and doesn't understand how returns work. It's about $5. We're just gonna take this and leave. And then Mickey Rooney locks them in and trips a silent alarm. And I think one of the good jokes in this episode was the shopkeeper asks, do you know how many of these ties I sell a year? And Jesse's just like, well, I know at least 2.
Yeah. The thing that I didn't like, I feel like the Mickey Rooney character was so old that he was like old enough where making digs at Italians was funny to him. Like the whole time he just made fun of like his hair or the hair product. It's like, wow, he's like pre-racist to other like white races. That's how old this guy is.
Yeah. But he, so in between insulting him about having too much hair gel on, he also gets him to do the dribble cup, the joke water dribble cup. And then Jesse wipes his face with a towel with some black sludge stuff on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Michelle keeps playing pranks on him. He calls him Fonzie at one point, Mickey Rooney. Don't blow your top. I don't want to start a grease fire was something
about an oil slick later, or like I don't know, something like that.
So obviously this old man is lonely on Christmas Eve. I called it before. He's like, you know what? Get out of here. Go. And then
Yeah, the police are not coming for that, by the way.
Yeah, he said he called the police 20 minutes ago to tell them that. Well,
when?
Yes,
How?
You do make a point. Currently in San Francisco, if you don't get thrown in jail for robbing a store of under $1,000, so have fun with that.
Perfect.
And so maybe they were just trying to show what life is like in the future. But
I kind of didn't feel bad for the guy when he explained what happened.
With his kids.
Yeah.
So as Michelle's leaving, she's like, Uncle Jesse, we should invite him to Christmas dinner because he's clearly alone on Christmas Eve and sad and something. And the old man goes on a speech about how his family doesn't write him, or also his family that never phones him. They moved to Oregon with the grandchildren.
Probably because their young family can't afford the crippling housing prices and they have to move away. Like
in San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the 90s, so I feel like that was not as bad, but it's getting there.
So.
I mean, clearly the joke shop was in his family for many generations. So
yeah, I mean, it made $5s of dollars for decades.
They never asked him to come with him.
He's an adult. He shouldn't have to get permission.
Yes.
Like all of this was, we've seen how this man behaves.
Yes.
Right. Like, would you invite him?
Yeah. I'm sure he wasn't an alienating ass to his entire family. No.
What if maybe like his son or daughter married an Italian and he wasn't cool with it? I'm just saying.
There is a little Italy in San Francisco. It is highly probable that happened. Yeah. So and Michelle reminds him of his granddaughter that he's never seen or something that's close to his age or her age. Yeah. They all make up. They all get friendly. Michelle takes him home for Christmas Eve dinner. And it's at this point I wish that he has a heart attack.
Oh my God.
I was like, how could this improve?
True.
Yeah. Yes. And in this whole thing, Jesse's like, I was the one that didn't have Christmas spirit today because you, old man, refused to give my sweet daughter my sweet niece who you recognize personally as a patron of your store, a refund on Christmas Eve.
Meanwhile, he's like invading someone's store and essentially stealing. Based on his policies.
I think there's good people on both sides here.
Very fine people on both sides.
Oh God. But I mean, Jesse had a fair point. He recognizes her. She's a constant patron.
All right.
He could have done her a solid, especially if he thinks of her as like his granddaughter.
I think he was just trying to avoid the heartache and whatnot.
Yeah.
By being crotchety.
We get back to the B story. Becky's reading about Santa to the twins. Comet comes in, dresses a reindeer.
Okay, that was cute, I gotta say.
I like Comet. I missed Comet. Like the moment he walked in, I was like, "Aw, Comet."
I know.
Someone gets out Santa claustrophobia.
The twins were terrified of Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Beating people up.
So Joey comes in dressed as the Easter Bunny because that suit fits him, and he's trying to rebrand it as the Christmas Bunny.
Not much creepier than an Easter Bunny suit, especially ones where it's like they have no eyes or whatever.
Yeah, or a holiday armadillo, which is a Friends reference. But DJ's like, at least you're able to stuff the pillow into this suit, and Joey's like, no, I'm just fat. Yeah. So Mickey Rooney, Michelle comes back with Mickey Rooney's dressed as Santa Claus. There's presents for everyone somehow from a joke shop.
Yep. So now he's just giving a bunch of stuff away after haggling over a $5 return.
Yeah. My God.
My head kind of went like, is he actually Santa Claus? And then is this like a B story to the Santa Claus movies? Like, was he the Santa Claus that fell off the roof and died?
We could only hope.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Michelle's new gift for Danny that they somehow stopped off to get while Mickey Rooney was dressing up as Santa Claus was a candy cane toothbrush, electric, that plays, I want to say Jingle Bells because I wasn't listening.
I think so.
Yeah.
And she gets the same response from him as if she would have given him the tie, which was, I love it, honey. Any gift you give me is amazing.
It's great. Yeah.
Not having children, I feel like do you ever experience these? Well, that's
No,
a fair question. Andrew.
My kids don't buy them on their own. They have help.
That's fair.
I'd say, yeah, most of the time.
I'm not sending my kid unattended to a joke shop.
With a creepy old man that wants to abduct your children.
Yeah. Wow.
He was like, Michelle's my own granddaughter.
Can I ask, so when Mickey Rooney gets the phone, I think Michelle hands him the phone to call his family.
Jesse does. Yeah.
Jesse does. Okay. And he calls and I think speaks to his granddaughter. What was he doing with his face? That was scaring me. I was like, what is going on with this guy's face? His eyes got so wide, unlike in Breakfast at Tiffany's, and it was very frightening.
Oh, God. So, yeah, for those of you that don't remember, Mickey Rooney played an Asian character in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Like a very offensive
Asian stereotype. That's, as the resident half Asian, I don't let people forget that. So Mickey Rooney gets Jesse's cell phone to call his family in Oregon or Oregon, as we hear sometimes in movies. And his granddaughter picks up, and then he's just immediately elated to talk to her. And I'm like, are you going to talk to your son and or daughter that moved away from you? Or is that like, at any point are they going to be like, honey, who's on the phone?
Yeah, old wounds. They're probably pissed at him for never calling.
Exactly.
I was going to say, why couldn't you have just called him earlier?
The phone works both ways.
There you go.
And the episode ends in Andrew's favorite way for these Christmas specials, with them randomly bursting into song. I think it was because of the toothbrush that played the song.
Yeah, but a lot of these shows, like, there will be dialogue and then someone will walk into the room and start singing a Christmas song. And I'm like, what? That would never, if someone did that in my house, I would take them and commit them to a mental institution. Because that would just be so out of character. You
should try it this year. You should just be like,
well, first of all, a piano would just need to appear in the room, and I would just need to suddenly know how to play the piano. It's like there's never been a piano on this set ever, and then there's just one in the room all of a sudden. Not in this episode. And then our favorite, which is the end card, where it's like wishing a happy. What is it? They said I don't know, like a happy holiday or joyous holiday season, and then it has a little like festive background.
Which I think that might have been of the same. So we've been doing this for 3 years. We've watched a lot of ABC Christmas episodes, and a majority of them for 1 year have had this like still card wishing you a merry holiday season.
Family Matters did it. It's like Fresh Prince.
Dinosaurs did it. Yeah. So I feel like we're approaching the end because there can be only so many shows in this 1 year that had the same graphic of season's greetings from ABC and Michael Eisner. But yeah, that was Arrest You Merry Gentlemen. Final thoughts on the episode. Taylor, do you want to go first?
It's not my favorite Full House Christmas episode. I couldn't think of what my favorite one was off the top of my head, but it's not, well, is it the worst? It's definitely, I will say, not my favorite. We get weird Santa Claus. The storylines feel very separate from each other and not connected, and everyone seems very isolated kind of in the episode. So that's one thing I didn't like as much compared to some of the other episodes where even if they're separate storylines, they're more morphed together and less like we got Michelle and a creepy old guy in one corner and twins being freaked out by Santa Claus in a completely different corner. barely interacting with random people throughout the day.
I pretty much looked at my phone anytime the B story came on the screen. I was just so disinterested in it. But like overall, I mean, it's one of the better sitcoms. The Christmas episodes are never spectacular. It falls into the same traps that all of them have. But, you know, it was fairly enjoyable. Didn't like Mickey Rooney.
No, exactly. For a Christmas episode itself, I really enjoyed it. I'm comparing it to Full House episodes is where the negative comes up.
Yeah, I think anytime, because the later seasons, there were definitely, it was the Michelle show. And sometimes that's good, but a lot of times it's a detractor, especially when the other storyline is the twins. Whereas, like, put the twins on a C story and then have DJ or Stephanie have a story. Like,
put the twins back in their dressing room. That's my opinion.
I just not having Stephanie or DJ do anything, and like literally we had 30 seconds of Kimmy. That's where most of the heart of the show is for the kids, and then we barely got any Jesse or Danny at all either. So it was lacking. It was lacking the full house,
the fullness of the
if you will.
Exactly. No, 100%.
But yeah, it's not the worst thing we've seen. As much as we may have been a little harsh on it, but that's it for this holiday edition of Namely 90s. Tune in tomorrow for day 9 of our 3rd annual 12 Days of Christmas specials. And thank you again to Taylor from Geek Speak for coming on. You. Can you let our listeners know where to find you, Taylor?
Yes. Look for us on Instagram at Geek Speak JT for our host, Jalen and Taylor. Geek Speak JT. Our next episode coming out is going to be anime cosplay vibed, and then the episode after that is going to be very interesting with a lightsaber sports organization, runner, teacher, all that professional stuff that I'm talking to next week. So it should be a lot of fun. So don't forget to check us out on Friday mornings at Geek Speak.
I'll definitely be tuning in for the lightsaber combat sports. I need to get into that.
I don't know how to word it, but yeah.
Yeah. And as always, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Namely90s with 90s, or find our personal Twitter accounts at bshody or at NamelyAndrew if Twitter still exists, and tell us what you want us to talk about on future episodes. If you'd like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Namely90s, also with the 90s. Finally, you can also contact us through our website, Namely90s.com. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Comet, Deezer, TuneIn, iHeart, Good Pods, and wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm Brandon, that's Andrew. Thank you one final time to Taylor from Geek Speak for joining us today, and we will catch you tomorrow for day 9 of our 12 Days of Christmas specials.